Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week, and this is going to be the astro weather for November the 30th through December 7th, 2025. This is going to be a fun week. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about the transits. Obviously, we're going to go day by day and talk about where the moon is and what other transits are kind of peppered in throughout this next week to help you guys plan. But major headlines is Venus is entering into the sign of Sagittarius. So obviously, if you guys are new here, welcome. It's nice to have you. If you are returning in terms of your subscribers or members, thank you guys for coming back. Make sure that you guys give me a thumbs up and you like this video. Consider subscribing if this video lands with you, because any interaction with the channel really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to drop your rising sign in the comments. I do read them. I try to get back to you guys. I love to hear how some of these transits play out for you. And don't forget, this Thursday on December 5th, we're going to be here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing live astrology on the channel. So bring your chart, bring your questions, and hopefully you guys can hang out with me on Friday night. And just a heads up, guys, we have our Black Friday sale that is going on and our Cyber Monday sale. The links are below, so you can head over to see my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. We are doing everything on sale, all my courses. We are also offering bundles on the courses if you want to get a BOGO. And we also have the big cosmic bundle where if you guys get 2 of my astro courses, you're going to get my tarot course for free. And we're also giving away 6 months extra on my transit calendars. So if you guys want to see that before the deals vanish, definitely check that out. All right, well, the weekly vibe for the week ahead, we've got obviously Venus entering into Sagittarius. This is a planet that deals with love, money, and pleasure, but also self-worth. So on the 30th, Venus will be entering into this sign. It's going to stay until about Christmas Eve. This is big and it's bold, and it's really about freedom-hungry energy. Now, I think a lot of us are going to feel like there is this pretty dramatic shift where life is now kind of being measured against one question. Does this expand my spirit or does it shrink it? So we're going to find that people, places, and experiences are going to feel like adventure with Venus in this sign. So many of us might have spontaneous kind of like road trips that turn into love stories. We can also see that maybe we're falling hard for someone that speaks another language. Long distance relationships, education, travel, that's all going to be kind of charging up this week as Venus enters into this sign. We are also going to see that there can be some major relationship changes and financial changes because right before Venus is actually going into the sign, we're going to see an opposition to Uranus. So there's still some sparks that are going to be flying this week. Now, to do a deeper dive on Venus and Sag, the dates of this transit are going to be roughly 3 weeks. So she will enter into the sign on November 30th. She'll stay until December the 24th on Christmas Eve. And if you happen to be ruled by Venus, this is going to be pretty strong for you, my Taurus and Libra risings, as well as my Sagittarius risings. I think you guys are going to love this glow up. Now, we know that Venus rules love and money, but it's about relationships of all kinds. It's also about our values, aesthetics, and harmony. Social connections can be seen under Venus as well, and it's really about what we're opening up to. So Sagittarius, we're in the middle of Sagittarius season. Obviously, this is a sign that is cardinal fire, mutable fire. So this is going to be dealing with action when it comes to love and relationships. And this is a sign that is traditionally ruled by Jupiter. So it makes everything feel bigger. This is also about exploring the topics of love and money. It can also be about philosophy, travel, and humor. We have to have a little bit of humor in our relationships this week. Now, I think when we put Venus in the sign, we're going to see that love really becomes a quest. And it's going to be that, money is flowing when we're growing, when we're being optimistic. And beauty is anything that makes you say, wow, I've never seen that before. So be willing to sample all of the variety with Venus in the sign, different foods, different culture, different places, and keep an open mind because you might learn something with Venus in Sag. Now, like I said, we're going to see some sparks fly, and a lot of that is because currently we're watching Venus kind of, finish off her tail end of her transit in Scorpio, and she's in opposition to Uranus and Taurus right now. So as you guys are watching this on Sunday and Monday, there can be lots of sudden changes happening in finances and also in relationships. I do feel like things may feel a little discombobulated. We might feel a little ungrounded in these topics, but we're going to see that kind of shift when Venus changes signs. Obviously, Jupiter is connected to Sag. So Jupiter is currently hanging out in Cancer. It's retrograde. So with all this kind of fiery, expansive energy in the sky, with these planets moving through Sag, it's getting more of an emotional review when it comes to maybe love, family, money, and travel. And I think a lot of us are not just chasing freedom with Venus and Sag. It's about, really figuring out where we can heal that part of us that has kind of learned that love has to hurt. And there's been a lot of disappointment. There's been a lot of shocks, some scandals, and betrayal with Venus going through Scorpio. But now it's kind of bust into Sag, and it's going to give us a little bit of the bigger picture. So I want to take you guys through the transits of Venus. I want to kind of give you the play-by-play with all of the dates where I think she's going to be making some of the most important aspects. This is going to go between now and the end of December. So if you guys are looking for the dates for these transits, click the description. You'll see that. You'll also see all of the transit information for the weekly astro weather that I'm going to be covering. And if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'm going to be discussing where Venus is moving through your chart based off of your rising or your sun sign, giving you guys some tips and predictions and where to feel the love. So stay tuned for that. All right, so obviously things are going to be kicking off on the 30th. So if you guys are watching this on Sunday, happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. Things are a little tense, obviously, with Venus at 29, opposing Uranus at 29, trining Neptune at 29. There is a lot of emotional closure, and I've been seeing it. I've been seeing it with friends. I've been seeing it with clients who are sending me emails about breakups and changes and shocks and surprises. And I feel like, when we see this opposition, it does represent stress or tension between where we want to break through and maybe kind of end old cycles in relationships, karmic entanglements, secrets in Scorpio, joint financial matters, and it's opposing Uranus, which is going to be those curveballs. So yes, something may suddenly break, but it's breaking wide open and it's going to give you freedom. So it's about kind of seeing the perspective, okay, that ended, it's been difficult, very emotional with the trines to Neptune. We're going to see Mercury kind of pop into that trine that's going to be happening here soon. So it's about intuitively rolling with some of these waves and recognizing that maybe if it wasn't coming out, you wouldn't know. Like you wouldn't know if there was any issue in a relationship where somebody wasn't being forthcoming, or if there was some kind of financial issue or something that needed to be brought up. It's going to be coming up through this opposition. So Venus will make that opposition this morning. You guys are feeling that pretty much since late last night. And then she is going to shift into Sag. So she's no longer picking up on the energy of Mars. She's not picking up on the energy of Pluto, because those two planets are kind of hosting Venus as she goes through Scorpio. And as she moves into Sagittarius, it'll be later in the afternoon today. So I'm here Central Time. It's going to be around 3:00 p.m. Central. That's when we're going to start to kind of feel the shift. And it's nice to see like that moon in Aries trining all that Sag. I feel like there's going to be more get up and go energy. And I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about kind of going our own way with the moon in Aries. So, instant mood lift is what I'm kind of predicting on Sunday. It can also feel like a sigh of relief that there is now been this kind of breakthrough. Maybe there was a breakdown, but we're trying to see the silver lining. I feel like with Venus and Sag, these are individuals that obviously love culture, right? Love travel, they love art and people from all walks of life, but they also need a lot of freedom in relationships. Otherwise they can feel kind of cagey, or there can be a sense of them loving, the adventure or the long distance relationship, or just loving the freedom of being able to kind of come and go as they please, because that's when they're going to feel the happiest and the most valued. So you may feel like, hey, there's been something kind of suffocating that's been going on in like the Scorpio area of my chart, and now it's going to break into Sag and it becomes a little bit more freedom loving. We're also going to find that we have more options, we have more choices. There is still a lot of reflecting on the past. For that, I say it's that connection to Jupiter, which is retrograde. So we're reflecting on what have we learned about where we've lived, home and family, maybe getting out in the world, connecting with people who are kind of different than our background and our roots and where we come from. There's also a lot of people that are flying back and forth and traveling during these transits. Obviously, it's, kind of in the holidays, but it's also connected to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So you're going to see a lot of people who are going to go, we're doing something different this year for the holidays. And that could be, this past week over Thanksgiving, that could be going into Christmas and other holidays taking place in December. Some people are saying, you know what, we're staying home, and that's the Jupiter retrograde, or we're going to do something different, or we're going to do something more traditional. Others are saying, actually, we're opting to not even do something traditional. We're going to Hawaii, or, we're going to be, taking a road trip, or we're going to go and do something in a foreign place. So you'll see some of those really different kind of diverse dynamics in how people are going to be celebrating the holidays this year. Now, we will then see on the 1st of December, Venus is going to come into a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. And so sextiles are friendly energies. This is a closing sextile, so it's kind of gearing up for in a couple of months' time when Venus comes in conjunction with Pluto, and that's going to be like that powerful transformative reset. But a sextile is like that easy 60-degree angle that is kind of like a whisper, or kind of like a nudge that's trying to get Venus to work with that open mind, that freedom to change and transform Pluto, our goals, our friends. So you see a lot of people are going to go, well, we're having Friendsgiving, or we're having a whole group of different people coming from, different backgrounds, or maybe we're traveling and doing something with friends. And I think that this is also about soul recognition. It can also be really strong for attraction. We can see lots of transformative relationship themes going on socially and romantically. And I feel like some joint ventures might actually feel fated. So there's a lot of powerful changes that are happening revolving around our relationship and friendship and travel goals. Now things will be kind of quiet until about the 11th. And on the 11th, Venus is going to start coming into a square with the North and South node. Now, some of you guys are watching this before we get into the full moon in Gemini. So if you guys didn't see that video, it's going to be early in December. I put it out, and I'm going to talk about it today too. The mutable grand cross that we're going to see with the sun squaring the North node in Pisces, the South node in Virgo, the moon squaring the North node in Pisces, South node in Virgo, and it's going to be at 13. So 13s always correlate with action, or our own individual kind of needs, or being independent, or being courageous. It can also be tied to kind of like military stuff. It can be tied to things moving very swiftly or very quickly. So it's kind of echoing some of the themes that have come up over the last month with planets squaring the North and the South node. And thankfully, mutable signs deal with squares, I think, a lot better than some of the other signs. They're flexible. They can kind of roll with the punches. These are signs that are about the kind of completion or conclusion of a season. It's giving way to something to initiate something new. So Scorpio season was that death, transformation, shock, surprise, rebirth, things kind of coming out in the open, even though they're uncomfortable. Sag season is more, okay, what did we learn about that? How have some of those truths brought us closer? How has it set us free? So maybe we can actually go and explore, not feel tied down or restricted or limited by some of our karmic entanglements. And how can we kind of teach through our own experiences with some of these intimacy or shock kind of related things. And then we will obviously go into Capricorn season, and then we're going to get down to business. But for right now, it's mirroring Mars square the nodes last month. It's mirroring the full moon in Gemini, and then Venus is going to come in square. And in a nutshell, squares represent tension. The North node represents growth. So this is about empathy. This is about emotions. This is about healing. It's also about collective spiritual stuff. South node in Virgo, health habits, breakdown of changes with jobs, issues with coworkers, maybe bad habits, and where we can kind of nitpick a little bit too much. So this is about growth coming through tension. And so it's really about asking yourself, are you choosing to go the safe and easy route, right? Are you choosing to do something that's familiar, that's kind of safe, and it's not getting outside of your comfort zone? Or are you ready to really expand your relationships? Are you ready to expand your horizons? Are you ready to take risks and be a little bit more adventurous when it comes to love, art, culture, all of these themes? So it can be soul expanding when we see planets square the nodes, and it's like a rare, opportune moment in time where the universe kind of says, okay, you're at a crossroads. It's up to you to decide what you believe when it comes to your values, maybe how you spend money, what you're willing to spend on travel, on education. It can also feel like some very fated love-related things that can be happening. So Sagittarius is representing foreign countries. It can be about mentors and teachers or education. It can be airports. So I've seen transits like this with people who have gone through this, and they're like, oh my God, my flight got delayed and I had a layover and I spent 3 hours at a airport bar and ended up talking to this guy, and then we had a back and forth, thing for 6 months, and 2 years down the road, I met my husband there and we got married. Crazy things can happen. So if you're feeling like you're getting a little bit sidelined and you're having to travel or go or do things or learn things and explore, it might mean that the universe is trying to intervene to bring you some kind of sweetness. That's how I'm trying to look at it. And a lot of people are either being forced to feel like they have to stay home, and maybe that's to kind of reevaluate, your values when it comes to your home and your family. Others are recognizing, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to take a chance and I'm going to go and do a trip, even if it's solo, and they may connect with someone. But watch for falling in love with something that expands your heart. I think that's really the connection to Jupiter in Cancer. It could also mean that you're willing to go the distance for the people that you love, or maybe you're going and exploring new places that you're contemplating or considering moving to. All right, so on the 18th of the month, we are going to see Venus come into a trine with Chiron, which I like this. I like the fire trines. You're going to see also like the Sag new moon that's going to have Mercury, Venus, the sun, Juno will be there too. But on the 18th, Venus will trine Chiron, and it's at 22. So if there's been some long-standing issues with health problems, self-esteem issues, feeling isolated, feeling alone, now we can see that, hey, you know what? Love doesn't have to be so difficult. It doesn't have to be so hard. This is also going to be big, I think, revolving around like legal matters and lawsuits in the world, or like court decisions that are going to revolve around health practices, health practitioners, themes connecting to people who have been injured or wounded. And for the most part, when we see Venus in a harmonious trine to Chiron, things don't feel as painful. And there can be this sense of healing through radical honesty. It could also mean that we go on a healing adventure, we go to a retreat, maybe we pick up a book on an author that makes us realize that we need to be better about self-love and self-care. The next day, we will see Venus come into an inconjunct or a quincunx with Jupiter. And that's going to be happening the 18th and the 19th. And Jupiter is the dispositor of all this Sagittarius, okay? And like the new moon is going to be in conjuncting that as well to an extent. It's a little wide, but it is. And this means that, we can do things in excess. So it's really easy to people to be like, it's the holidays, we're eating the cookies and, we're drinking more, or we're just kind of maybe a little bit more lax when it comes to like fitness. But it is possible that there is a sense of too much food, too much spending, too much promising things, or feeling emotionally kind of overwhelmed. And we're trying to once again juggle the differences between Sagittarius wanting that freedom and the requirements, the expectations, and stuff going on with home and family. Could also mean that we're really having to push hard in Sagittarius season to let go of clinging on to the past, harboring emotions that don't allow us to be optimistic or open-minded to, starting over again, being willing to, get out of our safety and security with Jupiter in Cancer and put ourselves out there. Then we will see on the 20th of December, Venus will come into a square with Saturn. And so by this point, there has been, a Mars square Saturn. We have seen, the new moon does start coming into a square with Saturn and also Neptune. And now Venus comes into a square with Saturn. So this is one of the more challenging, I think, kind of troubling transits of Venus's trek. The positive, because I want to focus on that in Sag season, is Sagittarius energies are making a superior square to all of this Pisces. And, Pisces can represent where we've been hiding out, where we're hiding things, where we're self-undoing, where there's stuff going on globally or collectively. The mutable signs can represent big weather patterns and weather changes. So we're going to see lots of extreme weather that can be impacting airports pretty much for the next month. We can also see that we're finally realizing that we have to get out of our own way and we have to be bold and be brave and be willing to take chances. That's very much, I think, the vibe of Sagittarius and in most of the fire signs, to be honest with you guys. This is where we see a reality check. So with Venus square Saturn, you know, we may not be totally pleased with our accommodations. We may not be totally pleased with the fact that, you know, food is costing too much when it comes to travel. It can also mean that there's some disappointments that can come with love and money, or people are feeling kind of the stiffness of Saturn that's coming up, where we feel restricted or lack of. So, you know, gift exchanges around the 20th are not ideal, because we're going to find that people are going to go, oh, that's not what I wanted. Or, you know, I ordered it, it finally shows up and it's not as quality as I was hoping that it would be. And obviously Jupiter is the dispositor of both of these signs. And with Jupiter retrograde, it's like people are feeling as if they're searching for something that's going to make themselves feel comfortable or make themselves feel at home. And there can be a sense of running away from problems, right? Sagittarius, you guys catch flights, not feelings. Thinking that it's going to fix something or that it's going to make something go away, only to realize like, oh, actually, you know what? It might actually be emotional and I need to process that. It's not about, you know, going somewhere. It's about being present with the things that we haven't been kind of dealing with. So money stuff, relationship stuff, anything revolving around trying to have something long lasting or valued gets kind of docked on this square. Also not the best day, I think, if you're looking to buy anything luxury. So if you're looking for last minute gifts and you want to go and, you know, give somebody a vacation, or, you know, maybe you're wanting to buy a nice piece of jewelry, or maybe you're just wanting to feel loved or appreciated, things aren't really going to hit very well. Okay. And it's not a good aesthetic day either. So if you're trying to, you know, hair, nails, clothes, that stuff, things that might arrive that you have ordered may not really look the way that you thought it was going to look. So watch out for that. And then on the 21st, Venus is going to inconjunct Uranus. And that's important because Venus is obviously the dispositor of Uranus and Taurus, where this has been shaking up the banks, shaking up the planet, making all of us see a lot of destabilizing things going on with food, resources, values, self-esteem issues. And that's at a 26. So not only did Venus square Saturn, but if we end up, you know, not getting what we want, then we're like, oh, we have to pay more for something to get it here quicker. We have to pay for something to be overnighted. It could also mean that there are some people who are not adapting well to changes going on with, you know, eating different foods, or, you know, dealing with foreign currency. We can see that there can be some kind of like, financial crisis stuff that's going on globally that's going to send shockwaves, I think, through the system. And Venus is money and Sagittarius is stuff that's going to be foreign. And as it's starting to come into a square with Saturn, we're going to hear things revolving around where people are going, hey, you know, it's hard for me to get this currency exchange, or the exchange rates are crazy. My money's going to go further in a different place than it is going to go here, or having issues being able to buy or transfer money. Just as an example, I was late on X last night and saw like a Bitcoiner that was talking about how she is a freelancer and she was traveling through Canada. And when she went through security and was doing everything, you know, they were asking her questions about, you know, what she does and why she was there. And she says she was traveling, you know, for work. And they were asking her questions about finances. And then once they realized that she was like a Bitcoin influencer and that's what she was involved in, the tone changed. And then suddenly she was like, they were kind of like rude with me. And then demanded to be, you know, to go through all of her financial accounts and stuff. And then they flagged her because she was somebody who just transacts and deals with Bitcoin, which is private peer-to-peer transactions, right? So it reminds me of this, where there's going to be some relational issues that are going to come up with international travel, or issues revolving around money or currency or expenses. And shocks revolving around technology, Uranus, and whether or not people have privacy, right? It's squaring Saturn in Pisces, and it's also coming into a square with Neptune in Pisces. So I think you're going to see some countries that are going to be like all about it. Obviously, recently New Zealand, I saw, decided they're going to start teaching about Bitcoin in schools, which I think is kind of cool. But you're also going to see some countries that are going to be, I think, a little bit more weird about, you know, how you're doing business, or what you're bringing in, or where you're coming from, or what you're transacting in. So it's probably going to start to kind of foreshadow, you know, some of the stuff that's going to be changing in this next year, revolving around, you know, monetary systems. And so we're going to start to see, I think, the beginning of the segue where people are going to be like, no, I want freedom when it comes to money. Why do I have to, you know, why do I have to disclose anything? And maybe even more revolving around this global discussion about people who are getting debanked. I think that that might continue to kind of go on, but more on an international kind of level. Obviously, I'm not a Bitcoin astrologer. I'm not even a financial astrologer, but I talk about the news where I see it, where it kind of correlates with some of the astrology. And I wonder if there's going to be some kind of legal themes revolving around this in certain countries, because Sag can be legal, and whether or not it's like discrimination. Certainly Sagittarius and Pisces is very much about the country you come from, the religion you belong to, the spiritual practice you believe in, you know, your background, your ethnicity. And so we naturally see with squares between these two signs, you know, religious tension, you know, kind of, you know, tension between countries, or there is some kind of conflict that's kind of emerging because of different belief systems and ideologies. So that will probably be coming up as well. So be mindful of your P's and Q's, obviously over the holiday season, whether you're talking religion or politics, or if you're talking about finances or values. Not everybody is going to see eye to eye. And I think this is also going to be bringing up the truth. This is where the Mercury retrograde started in Sag, regarding around, you know, foreign investments and how it may potentially be influencing or, you know, possibly be dictating, because of Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, global agendas, or where people in positions of power are potentially, you know, being bought and sold, and it's influencing the decisions that they are making when it comes to their influence and their decisions. So I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on that as well. Venus square Saturn can also be a woman that's coming out, that's speaking out boldly about what's going on with lack of support or lack of guidance or, you know, leadership. And obviously Jupiter being there could be some people who are kind of coming back up from the past that we haven't seen in a while. And you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be talking about, you know, their beliefs, their culture, their pride. And they're going to be pretty dismissive of this global initiative with Saturn and Neptune to just merge and lop everything together. So some people will perceive this as, oh, you're like a nationalist, or, you know, you're racist, or you're this or you're that. And other people are going to go, okay, that's your culture, that's your belief system, that's fine to have that, but we don't all share in that kind of belief system. And so there will be a lot of banter back and forth about what it means to have love or pride for a culture or a background and a belief system. It could be religious as well. And some people are going to speak out quite a bit, I think, with this square, where they're like, no, we need to have borders. It's okay to have different people from different places, and you can love where you come from, and, you know, maybe merging or trying to force people to coexist in certain spaces where it's not conducive. And it can go into education as well. So you'll hear things about where, you know, things are going to be tested legally, whether or not they're going to teach, you know, the 10 Commandments in a classroom, or whether or not, you know, a classroom in New York City is being pushed to, you know, teach or educate American students a foreign language against their will. I mean, that kind of stuff you can also kind of see, especially as Mercury is starting to come into a square with Saturn and Neptune. And certainly there's going to be a lot of legal stuff that's coming up with it. And the Jupiter retrograde is kind of highlighting, wait a second, let's talk about where we come from. And so there's going to be a lot of people kind of sharing their perspectives that most likely will not agree. So then you're going to see on the 23rd of December, Venus will square Neptune. Honestly, a lot of the same things. You know, obviously it's going to hit 29 degrees. So that's that critical turning point. So it does deal with drama when it comes to the stock market, drama when it comes to relationships, when it comes to leaders, when it comes to children. And I do feel like with Jupiter being the dispositor still at 22, it is going to talk about, I think, a lot of people in government that are going to kind of be speaking very passionately about their beliefs and where they come from. And just as an American, I know we have people who watch from all over the country, but, you know, Jupiter going through, you know, Cancer, it's not just here in America. It could be other people in their homelands that are also speaking up or speaking out against how much, you know, new people who have immigrated into certain places have had so much of a say or an influence on, you know, the court systems, on education, on legal themes. And, you know, now we're not seeing things so clearly. In your life, you know, Saturn and in your life, Venus square Neptune could be more about like illusions, and that there is this sense of being like, is this divinely connected, or do I have rose-colored glasses on? So we need a lot of discernment. We need discernment revolving around relationships. People can get scammed. They can get catfished. It can also mean that you buy something online that looks really good, and then you get it and you're like, this is nothing like the picture. Pretty common. And there could be some deceptive things that are going on when it comes to love, money, and travel. Well, you know, once again, it's kind of bringing up that theme of Jupiter. So it's been some stuff that's been kind of long standing, and we're going to be kind of feeling like maybe we have deja vu because these problems keep coming back up. And it's like, how do I feel emotionally, you know, going round and round and round with the same kind of relational issues or kind of like love or money problems. So be very cautious with expenses or anything revolving around financial scams around the holidays, especially if you are traveling internationally. A lot of this can be about you're transacting or you're buying things in a foreign currency, you know, and not knowing how much you're supposed to be getting back. It could be that as well. And probably some confusion revolving around expenses and fees revolving around travel. And then on the 24th, Venus is going to enter into Capricorn. So it's going to go into a new sign. We'll talk about it closer to the end of December. And this is kind of like where now love gets more solidified and it comes up with a plan. So love becomes more practical, more long-term. It's about quality. It's about long-lasting themes. And we'll be then focusing more on Saturn, which is now direct at this point in Pisces. And so, you know, the year ends pretty strong, I think, with Venus going into Capricorn. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because I have Venus in Capricorn. But I'm really excited to see this build up from the end of December into January with Mars, Venus, and the Sun. We're going to see a rare triple conjunction. So very stabilizing for a lot of people in their charts in the Capricorn area of their life. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I do cover, you know, the Venus transits in my horoscopes. I also talk a lot about that throughout the weekly videos. And if you happen to be a Taurus or a Libra rising, this will be impacting you guys pretty strongly. Keep an eye out for the, you know, squares to Saturn and Neptune. I think it's going to kind of kick right at the end, but be optimistic about what you're learning about love and relationships throughout the process. Sag, obviously, you guys are going to be the star of the show. So whether you're Sag, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Venus is going to be blessing you with some beauty, some attraction, also I think some better habits and opportunities to host or socialize. So I'll get into that when we do the 12 signs. So let's now go ahead and do the week at a glance. We're going to start with November the 30th. For my Sunday crew, how are you guys doing? Obviously, if you guys listened to last week, I talked about how this was the best day of the week. And now you guys probably know why, now that you're getting to the end of the week. Like, some of the squares and the oppositions and the retrograde stuff has been rather difficult in this last week. So I love Sunday. I'm filming this a couple days prior, but I really like this day because of the fire trine. So the first thing in the morning when we wake up, the moon is in Aries. Let's take it to 7 o'clock. And you guys may have to adjust your time zones depending on where you are. I'm once again in Texas, so I'm on Central Time. But you're going to see most of the exact trine between the moon in Aries and the sun in Sag first thing in the morning. So get up and do something. Be active, work out. If you guys are traveling on Sunday, it's a better day to travel, honestly, than the last 2 days. And it also means that there is just so much fire in the air that we can kind of really get up and get things moving. So this is that period where now the sun and the moon are trining, so things are going to be flowing. We're going to be feeling more independent, more courageous, more passionate. We will also see that the moon will continue to keep moving through Aries, and it looks like right towards the end of the day, it's going to come into a trine with Mars, which is great, especially if you're traveling. Now, if you're not traveling on Sunday, and if you have to book travel, let's say here pretty soon, you could book travel with this trine. You can also wait until later in the week when Mercury comes into a trine with Saturn. So there's some pretty good traveling days, planning traveling days, or communication days. Now with Mars obviously being the ruler of Aries or the dispositor, it's in Sag. And this is why I'm saying a lot of people are going to be taking courses, they're going to be traveling, they're going to be learning things. And Mars is now coming out of the square at the North and the South node. How have you guys dealt with that? Excuse me. How have you guys dealt with that in this last week? I think that there's been like this pressure cooker that's been kind of hanging around, and it's been pushing everybody to kind of take some kind of action. So it's bringing that up a little bit, but it is fading. So we're not going to see that for very long. And the other big transit that we're going to see that's going to be happening today is the continuation of Venus in opposition to Uranus, although it looks like it was kind of exact yesterday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a lot of money shocks, relational themes, and drama, 29. Positive is that Venus in Scorpio is trining 29 degrees of Neptune in Pisces. And that means that, you know, it's possible that there's a lot of romantic idealism that's kind of in the air today. In the afternoon, we feel more liberated, and that's because we're going to see the moon coming towards a trine with Mars, and we're going to see Venus go into Sagittarius. So yeah, there's a lot of freedom, and maybe with this Aries, I want to do what I want to do, Sag, I want to fly energy. It can feel like some people are being selfish or, kind of having knee-jerk reactions, and it can be major deal breakers from some people with the Venus-Uranus opposition. It's a perfect day, I think, to like release an old love story or to release an old issue revolving around not feeling loved or not feeling valued or having scarcity mindset. And it's about really embracing Venus going into Sagittarius and being like, well, I don't know what's next, but I'm going to embrace the unknown. And yes, you might see some people who are going to make some kind of impulsive travel decisions because they're going to be like, well, you know what, screw this. I'm doing something else for Christmas, or, I'm making other plans. And that'll happen right around 3 o'clock Central Time. I think to navigate Sunday, it's about leaning into the fire trine and trying to drown out some of the relationship or financial dramas that can go on. Maybe feel into the fantasy and take one brave action on Sunday towards freedom. I think that's what I would be focusing on doing. And it looks like towards the end of the evening, the moon is going to start heading towards a trine with Mars, and that's going to happen overnight. So this will take us into Monday, which is December the 1st. I can't believe that. It's the end of the year. And first thing in the morning, the moon is kind of wrapping up the trine to Mars. So there's still a lot of get up and go energy on Monday. To me, it feels like with the moon coming into conjunction with Chiron, there can be some hurt feelings. There can be a sense of being more emotionally sensitive and needing to open up to that. And with Mars being the connection to Chiron, I think it's perfect for self-love, self-healing, maybe doing a getaway or doing something for yourself, or you're learning about, healing. As that moon comes into conjunction with Aries, we are more prone to migraines, allergies, headaches. It can also mean that we're in frustration, or emotions can actually be causing some kind of illness or sickness. And it will come into a square with Jupiter in Cancer today. So be advised, guys, people are going to be feeling a little bit more emotionally reactionary. And sometimes it's angry tears when you see like moon in Aries square Jupiter in Cancer. It can also mean that we're just feeling frustrated and things can feel a little intense. So after we see the conjunction to Chiron, which is going to be taking place right around 9:30, 10 a.m. Central, then that moon's going to come in for a square. So the late morning into the midday, there's a lot of emotional reactions, and it can kind of feel like it's coming out of nowhere, and there's like emotional breakdowns because it's happening at 23 degrees. Hi, I have my moon at 22:59. I've had Chiron on my moon for the last year, and I have Jupiter in Cancer. I've definitely learned that I'll get so frustrated to the point where I just start crying, just like a baby. Moon and Aries people, they look super tough, but then you start to kind of realize that they're just emotionally very immature sometimes. And that square to Jupiter is kind of showing you where, you're not moving through things the way that you should emotionally, that you're stunting your own personal growth and healing if you're holding everything inside. So it can be feeling a little emotionally tense midday. That moon is going to keep moving. And by the end of the evening, it's going to be going into Taurus. So we're kind of moving along with the clock here. Nothing's going on with Mars. And then in the evening hours, I take that back, it's not so early, around 9:10 Central Time, the moon's going to go into Taurus. So different vibe. It's less about action and, kind of independence and maybe even conflict. Now the moon's moving into a sign where it feels the most at home. What you will find is that Taurus moon is immediately going to start coming into a square with Pluto. So the late night hours on Monday, there can be some emotional drama. There could be some financial challenges, especially revolving around groups or, security or financial matters that are kind of coming up. And we're now going to be watching Venus because Venus is connected to Taurus and it's in Sag. So not only does the moon in Taurus just want to take things slow and be easy, but that Pluto square is getting emotional flare-ups and, going into detoxing and purging negative emotions. But the moon's also in conjunct or quincunx Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is very Jupiter. It's getting out and about and exploring, not having a plan. Taurus is I don't like that. That doesn't feel, stable to me. That's too overwhelming. And they in conjunct and they quincunx each other. So that tells me that, you know, very likely what is going to be manifesting on Monday is that there will be early wounds that are going to come up around worthiness. Like that's going to surface. It's important to be tender with yourself, but also with other people. And then as we ease into the afternoon, it's going to bring some kind of like alchemical encounters that can really shift your trajectory moving forward. I think the key on Monday is to, you know, be open about where you're hurt. You know, talk about it, get out in the air, speak it into, you know, into your conversation so you can get it out of your mind, and then be prepared for some of the intensity that can come at night, and embrace the intensity because it's trying to kind of get you to get out of your comfort zone. Now, Venus is also starting to come into a sextile with Pluto. And so this is why I said sextiles are friendly, but air and fire fuel each other. So Pluto's a heavy hitter. And I think this could where, you know, some people are now talking to their friends about changes with their travel plans or their family or with their goals and relationships. And I have observed this week, and I've gotten a lot of emails from people. I love you guys. I read all of them. I can't always get back to them. But I will do readings for clients and I'll say, you know, during this period, let me know what happens. And they'll send me an email. And I've had probably about a dozen people that have been like, yeah, you know, this relationship, I was traveling to see them or they were traveling to see me and we went on this vacation or we had this epic get together and it was amazing. And then boom, you know, then they broke up with me or then we abruptly got into a fight and I don't know what's next, but you know, I'm stunned. And also at the same time, I'm trying to be open-minded that this is happening for a reason. Very much Venus in Sag, very much also Venus sextile Pluto, wanting to share with other people what's changing in their lives. And I think that for some of you guys, it's just been the planets in opposition to Uranus that's been leading up to this. I think on Monday, things will get a little intense, especially in the evening. So if you're a night owl, watch for that. Then this is going to take us into December the 2nd. So that's going to be Tuesday. And we wake up with the moon still hanging out in Taurus. It is now coming into an inconjunct or a quincunx with the sun. So it's a lot of the same things, you know, wanting stability and security and pleasure. But it rubs Taurus the wrong way. But Taurus has to get along with this vibe because Venus is in this sign. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be making some unexpected investments in travel or revolving around legal matters or education. I also feel like this is about broadening our horizons when it comes to relationships and money and keeping an open mind. Obviously on Tuesday with that moon going through Taurus, really the only thing that we're going to see is that the moon will eventually come into a sextile with the North Node. So if we can stay grounded, reflective, and, you know, be resting or healing or listening to our gut, we can feel better grounded. It's also going to eventually come into a trine with the South Node, which could mean there's change to our schedules, changing to our eating habits, changes to maybe, you know, our work or relationship with coworkers. Maybe we're organizing or trying to kind of restructure our budget revolving around, you know, what's suddenly kind of changing or evolving. And I think a lot of people are going to go, yeah, I could spring that on traveling if I had to, but it's going to be costly. I think that's part of what's going on with the inconjunct. Now, throughout the day, that's really the only thing that's kind of happening. We will see that there is going to be, I think, some, you know, kind of quiet moments in the morning. Then we're going to see that there's going to be some potential pleasure that's going to be coming up that seems far away. So like a relationship or an enticing trip or maybe somebody who is kind of asking us to come and visit. And it may feel destined, especially because that moon is trining the South Node. So we're willing to change up our schedule. We're willing to make a sacrifice and we're willing to go on an adventure. I think Tuesday is excellent with the moon in Taurus for like beauty rituals and focusing on, you know, being grounded, good food, that sensual connection to the body, you know, really feeling stable when everything else feels like things are kind of like on fire. And on Tuesday, this is about indulging and I think doing it without guilt. And indulging doesn't mean gorging. It could mean that you're indulging in taking a nap or you're indulging in breaking from your schedule or you're allowing yourself to, you know, really focus on high quality food, high quality items. And that it may not be a physical thing. It may be an experience or an adventure. So as we go throughout the day, you're going to start to see the pickup of the moon coming into an inconjunct with the sun. And I do think it's about, well, where do I need to buckle down because it's at a 10 and focus on money and resources or on work versus, you know, taking a chance and kind of getting out there. So yeah, some people are going to feel like they're kind of mentally already on a holiday vacation. And then the moon is going to sextile the north node at 14, which is about money. It's a Taurus degree, and it's going to trine the south node. So that's going to be some kind of like a clearing revolving around our old habits. As we get into the evening, no other real transits are kind of taking shape. So we can move ahead into the next day, which will be Wednesday, December the 3rd. And this can be a little bit of like a chaotic morning, okay? So Wednesday feels like it's not just your average hump day. We wake up with the moon in Taurus in opposition to Mercury in Scorpio. So the moon in Taurus wants to kind of dig its heels in and just focus on comfort. The Mercury Scorpio aspect is going to be conversations revolving around money, intimacy, security. We may not see eye to eye with other people about some of these conversations. There can also be a sense of some people being very logical and to the point and direct with Mercury and Scorpio, and other people who are more emotional and sensitive. And it's almost like the heart and the mind are not seeing eye to eye. What's interesting is that, you know, the ruler of the moon is in Sagittarius. The ruler of Mercury, Mars, is in Sagittarius. And it's about just, and I keep saying this to myself. I'm like, this is so stressful, some of the stuff that's going on, but I'm like, what is the lesson here? Like, what am I learning? And is it stressful because I'm not willing to get outside of my comfort zone? Because that's what I think it is. And so I'm trying to really use the astrology in a positive way to go, okay, I learned a lesson here. Took a chance. Maybe something didn't work out, or maybe it taught me that I was playing it too small. So now I got to think bigger. Sagittarius wants us to think bigger. So on the 3rd, when Mercury opposes Uranus, and Mercury is coming back in opposition with Uranus, but it's opposing the moon, we're not going to see eye to eye with family. Could be some sibling drama, could be some traveling drama. And we're also going to start to see the moon coming into a sextile with Saturn. And this is where we just have to stay in that kind of meditative state of mind. That's like, whatever's happening is happening. I'm moving through it. So much of Saturn and Pisces, we're going to, I think, finally get through the tail end of it by reminding ourselves we have to move through these emotions, and through, you know, eating a solid meal, taking care of your body, having good health habits and emotional habits, you'll be able to navigate some of the stress and the communication with other people. We will also see the moon start inching its way into a conjunction with Uranus. And this is where things are going to get a little staticky. So this will be happening in the evening hours. So not only do we have some communication mishaps in the morning, but then moon Uranus is shocks and surprises in regards to what? Money, banking, finances, values, the earth. We could see some electrical issues. We could see some big news with crypto. There can be some big changes with banking. And it's at 28. So it is going to be about emotions. It's kind of trying to shake out all of those emotions. Our intuition can be very strong with moon conjunct Uranus as well. So I would say on Wednesday, expect unexpected messages. You may feel yourself kind of getting rigid and tensing up and not wanting to be emotionally vulnerable. Likely some pretty big financial news. And I think the nervous system might just really buzz. So mind your habits. A lot of caffeine, nicotine, sugar, things like this on this day, especially with the moon in Taurus. We're going to want to reach for food, or we're going to want to reach for things that are going to make us feel comfortable, to take our mind off of something. And I would say we can transmute some of that negative energy by putting our feet in the grass, grounding, working with crystals, working with aromatherapy. So to navigate what's going on Wednesday, let's not have any big reactions. Let's not do that. Let's lean more into these sextile with Saturn and Neptune, and kind of recognize that certain things are breaking down so we can have breakthroughs, and better things are actually on the way. Venus and Sag is saying the same thing. Now we will see a moon change, okay? So it'll cross Uranus in the evening. It's gonna go into Gemini, and it will immediately start coming into a trine with Pluto. So it's better for communication, powerful messages, viral things online, media, you know, getting the word out. And now we are focusing on Mercury, and Mercury is now direct in Scorpio. It is heading towards a trine with Saturn, so we're gonna have some better communication, I think, later in the week. And obviously, you know, Mercury in Scorpio does not mince words, right? Now that Mercury is going to be direct at this point, all of the things that have been kind of like, I think like backed up, or things that we've been afraid to say or kind of end or deal with, or things that needed to come out, even though they're painful, are really going to get highlighted Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay, that full moon in Gemini is a doozy. So as soon as the moon goes into Gemini, it's immediately coming into that full moon energy that you're going to start feeling on the 3rd. It's going to be the 4th and really into, you know, the 5th, maybe even the 6th. Let's look. Now, as it goes through Gemini, it's starting to come into an opposition with Venus. So the moon in Gemini wants to communicate, connect, it wants to travel. It's really focused on deep-seated kind of secrets and personal matters, financial matters, or intimacy. And it looks like it's going to oppose Venus overnight. And that there is this longing for something. It's like this longing for, I wish I could just travel, or I wish I could just get away, or I wish I could just connect with that person. And that is going to be lending energy until really the 4th. And this is now going to be Thursday. And on Thursday, you're going to see the moon start coming into an opposition with the sun. So let's look at that. That'll be a full moon. That's going to be at 13 degrees. So it's another Aries kind of get up and go degree. And this is that grand mutable cross that I was talking about. So if you have anything, I would say 12, 13, 14 degrees of the mutable signs, Gemini, Sag, Virgo, and Pisces, you guys are feeling this full moon in a big way. But I think everybody's going to feel it because of the square and the nodes, you know, connect to the moon. And we've got the moon of fate, the moon squaring the nodes of fate, ruled by Mercury. So it's saying, okay, we got to get out with it. We got to have the conversation. We got to expose the issues. We got to kind of get at all the sludge. And we've also got the sun that's doing the same thing. And Sagittarius is known for teaching and educating and, you know, being wise and the bigger picture. And the moon in Gemini is like just like a fax machine. It's just talking, getting stuff out. So with this grand mutable cross, it feels to me like it's going to be information overload. We're probably going to see a lot of crazy stuff coming out in the media of things that have been exposed, or there's going to be some whistleblowers or some major headlines or news kind of covering themes relating to Gemini. So it can be about education, it can be about transportation, it could be about schools. I also feel like it could be some kind of military news or some kind of news revolving around where there's some tension or there's some talk revolving around secret conversations that are happening regarding military relationships or people who are in the service. Mercury is starting to come into a trine with Saturn. So, I mean, that's the positive. It's like, well, you know, Mercury's direct, Saturn's direct. Here's the news. We've figured out all of the details, and you'll see that kind of come out throughout the full moon. But emotions are really high when we see a full moon. It doesn't really matter what sign it's in. We're also starting to see that, you know, Mars is building into the square with Saturn, you know, pretty much towards the end of the week. So we're starting to feel some blockages and some things that are actually kind of slowing down. My thought is that, you know, this full moon can bring revelations. Maybe our belief systems get tested. Certainly travel and communication is going to get tested. And to best navigate Thursday, this is going to be about writing and not fighting it. Get the words out, write it down. You know, if you have a good idea, if you need to have a conversation, you know, move forward. Don't react emotionally. Try to just cut to the details of what's most important and try to be vulnerable and transparent. I love Gemini full moons to ask myself, you know, what is it that I actually know? You know, I thought I knew this, or I thought I believed this, but is this truth? And you may find yourself questioning that about the Gemini kind of Sagittarius axis in your chart with this full moon. Now, that full moon is going to come in the PM hours, right around 6 o'clock Central Time for me-ish, maybe a little bit earlier. And then this full moon is going to keep kicking, okay? So you're going to keep feeling the kick until the moon leaves Gemini. So that's going to really take us into Friday, which is going to be the 5th. And if you guys are watching, now the moon is coming into the kind of last decan of Gemini. And first thing in the morning, the moon is going to oppose Mars. So you're going to see people that are going to go, I am, you know, intuitively feeling, Mercury is the ruler, you know, I have to travel. I have to have this conversation. I have to get this in writing. And yeah, Mercury's direct. But the moon in Gemini in opposition to Mars feels like there is some kind of outside pressure or need to learn, or maybe there's some conflict going on with a parent or conflict going on, you know, with a teacher or a mentor. And we're not seeing eye to eye. There is a lot of emotional pressure and tension from the Mars opposition. And we will also see the moon come into a square with Saturn. So there's going to be some emotional disconnect where some of us feel like we want to say something, but we don't know how to find the words, or we don't know if it's the right time. And then we will also see the moon come into a square with Neptune. So this is why I actually think the full moon is going to be kicking big time on the 5th. So, you know, it can take a couple of days for some of the effects to kind of, you know, play out. The positive, once again, I want to keep focusing on that, is that Mars is trining Chiron. So it is saying, hey, if we're brave and willing to take bold action and, learn something or stand up or travel, it can mean that it can really show us how strong we are, that we're capable of healing ourselves. I feel like frustration is going to be very high on the 5th. I'm not going to candy coat it. It also reads to me like that there is an opportunity for higher learning or higher healing. And it's about acting with integrity. Now, I think to navigate Friday, this is going to be for, many of us about moving the body, staying active, communicating, going for a walk, maybe doing some journaling. This is also about maintaining that inner peace, and not allowing ourselves to react to things, trying to stay in a state of mind where it's like, nope, I'm not reacting to fear. Mercury and Scorpio, I'm able to see through some of the kind of intensity or the fear. But if you're staying in a Zen state, or you start your day with a walk or with a meditation or some journaling, you're gonna go, I'm not gonna let this ruin my day. And I want you guys almost like wake up on Friday and remind yourselves, like, things are gonna get chaotic today. I'm gonna get hit from a couple different angles. I'm gonna breathe, I'm not gonna react. I'm gonna take time to assess the situation, because we can see some emotional knee-jerk reactions that can happen with the Moon-Mars opposition. All right, so as we move throughout the day, I'll show you where all these squares are taking place. You're going to see the moon in opposition to Mars first thing in the morning, so watch for that. And then we're also going to see the moon come into a square with Saturn. That'll be around midday, like noon, and that's that emotional kind of disconnect or coldness. And then we're going to see the moon come into a square with Neptune, and that's about kind of illusions, maybe feeling more emotional, more sentimental, but also it's about this turning point where now we have to say the quiet, thing out loud. Now we have to have the conversation, or we have to recognize where we've been kind of falling back or not seeing things so clearly. And thankfully, Mercury is now coming into that trine with Jupiter. You're going to see it, more towards the end of the week, but to see Mercury ruling the moon, and the moon's kind of in some stressful aspects. Mercury trining Jupiter, the north and south node ruler, is saying, hey, look beyond, what's just in front of you. Like, listen to what your gut is telling you. And there's been some things that have come up for me the last week that I'm like, I just have this feeling that I should not do this, or that, I should not say this, or I, should have done this differently. And then if I don't listen to my gut, it ends up pretty much being right. I'm like, okay. So, don't underestimate the power, I think, of Mercury trine Jupiter, that we can actually do a lot of internal healing, and we can listen to our gut, and it can steer us in the right direction. And as Mercury is building into a trine with Saturn, it's going to be much better for communication. So what you're going to see then is in the evening hours, the moon then shifts into Cancer on the 5th. So it becomes more about home, family, security, anything revolving around protecting something emotionally. And there's some interesting stuff that's kind of going on here, because now we're going to start seeing all of this Cancer energy start to inconjunct or quincunx Sag. So let's take it to Saturday the 6th. All right, so moon's in Cancer. It is obviously at home here. We don't have to look for a dispositor or anything. It's going to be heading towards a conjunction with Jupiter over the next 2 days. No real big aspects that you're going to be seeing involving anything in Cancer, but you are going to see that this is a day where the moon's going to inconjunct Venus. It's going to come into an inconjunct with the sun. And basically my interpretation is that it's this whole theme, and this is really Sagittarius season in a nutshell with Jupiter in Cancer, emotional sensitivity and being kind of stuck in our ways, or reflecting on the past, or staying home, versus the need for space, the need to get out, to learn, to explore, to have adventure, to not have a plan. So this is where people are going to start going, I'm getting kind of stir crazy, I need to get out of the house. Or people who are traveling and doing a lot of things are going, oh, I wish we had just stayed home. And I've heard that from people recently too. People who were like, we booked this big trip, we went to Europe, or, we did this or we did that. And we just realized that, we just were getting too old for it, or, our time would have been better spent with family or at home. So there can be some homesickness that can be going on for some people as well. I think on the 6th, watch for that need for space that's going to come up. Also, this is about, doing the Cancer things. The moon here is saying you might need your blankie, you might need some soup. Maybe it's about staying home and not making big decisions, and kind of listening to your gut as the moon starts building into a trine with the North Node in Pisces. Now, this is also the day that you guys are going to see Mercury trine Jupiter. So in retrospect, some people might be traveling and coming back home. Mercury can be movement and it's direct. We're also going to see that this is a good day for positive thinking, good news. Things are kind of flowing better when it comes to home or family. And we also see that Mercury is now coming into a trine with Saturn. This is the last of the Mercury trine Saturn, Mercury trine Jupiter. So if you guys were the real MVPs and you have waited until after the Mercury retrograde to sign your contracts, make your decision, make commitments, the 6th and the 7th of December are much better communication days. So you can book your travel, you can launch stuff, you can focus more on signing contracts and all of those things. I would say do it before Mars starts coming into a trine with Saturn, because you're going to feel some delays that's going to be happening. And above all, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, listen to your dreams. Focusing on, self-nurturing, I think is going to be the big key here. So the moon's going to move into an inconjunct late morning with Venus. Then the moon is going to come into a trine with the North Node. So things can feel very emotional, sensitive, and kind of destined. We will see then the moon is going to come into an inconjunct or a quincunx with the sun. And that's going to happen in the evening hours. And then overnight, the moon's going to keep moving through Cancer. Okay. Now, this takes us to Sunday the 7th. And on Sunday the 7th, you're going to see the moon going through Cancer. It's going to come into a square with Chiron, so it can bring up some more of those healing themes revolving around identity, personal identity versus home and family. We are also going to see the perfected grand water trine, because the moon's going to hit Jupiter. They're going to trine Mercury, so it's good for intuition, emotional kind of conversations and communication with family or changes with home and resources. And also the moon will trine Saturn, and we have Jupiter that's also trine Saturn, and Saturn is direct. Sunday's a pretty good day, outside of the fact that, yes, Mars is starting to come into a square with Saturn, but we'll deal with that on Monday. Grand water trine. And then we're going to see the moon leave that water trine, so it's going to be the strongest in the morning. And then as soon as it starts to get out of that 25, 26 degrees, so communication, emotions are flowing all day. And then in the evening hours, the moon is going to go into Leo. Very different vibe. Obviously, if you're a night owl, you'll feel the moon in opposition to Pluto. Some of the drama, the pressure that's going on, what makes you happy versus other people, where there's some outside crisis or need for change that's impacting you. When the moon is in Leo, we're looking at the sun. And so overnight, we'll see going into Monday, it's going to go through Leo and it's going to start trining Venus and the sun. So you're going to see Monday is going to be a very active day that's like bold and dynamic and coming up with creative ideas to kind of get around some of the roadblocks of the incoming Mars square Saturn, which you'll feel next week. I think in the morning, there is an opportunity for profound release. And I think that's the moon, Jupiter activating that water trine. It will square Chiron. So it also means that, there could be some power dynamics that are kind of flaring up with family. Also, as the moon goes into Leo and it opposes Pluto and Aquarius, this is also power dynamics that are going to flare up. Cry first, roar second. You can get your roar on later in the night, but definitely earlier in the day, there's a lot of emotions that are coming up for people. And it's very conflicting having all this water that's going on during Sagittarius season for some people, because they have all these big dreams and these things they want to do, but they just can't bring themselves forward. And I would say try to find the middle ground. Obviously grounding yourself is going to help. I love Sunday early in the day for finally signing contracts and booking travel, because you have Mercury trine Saturn, so you can commit the mind to long-lasting change, commitment, your vision. And we can also be optimistic, and it can be about restructuring financial plans when it comes to home and family related themes. So a lot of people going, well, we're saving to buy a house, or we're refinancing something, or we're finding creative ways to be able to kind of improvise, or maybe we're going to be making adjustments or, doing renovations and stuff with homes. And a lot of families having to communicate more, about changes in the home or with parents. That's definitely a theme as well. All right, so there you guys have it. That was the week ahead. Obviously, if you want the dates for that, click the description below. I want to take you guys through the 12 rising signs. I want to show you where Venus moving through Sagittarius is, and that way you guys can kind of see where she's bringing the love, maybe where to kind of pay attention for the next 3 weeks between now and the holidays. And I'm going to be doing this from the perspective of the whole rising signs. I'm a Western astrologer. That's kind of astrology that I like to practice. So I do recommend listening to your rising sign first. And you can definitely use your whole rising sign because Venus is entering into a new sign and it'll go through an entire house. If you're Placidus, you just need to see where 0 degrees of Sagittarius is in your chart and listen for your rising sun and moon sign if you want to get a fuller idea of how Venus is going to be impacting you. All right, so we're going to start with my Aries risings. You guys are going to experience Venus going through Sagittarius in your natal 9th house. All right, well, for you guys, Venus rules your money, Taurus through the 2nd, and your values and your self-esteem. It also rules your relationships and partnerships through the 7th. So what you're going to find is that when it comes to like love and money themes or love and relationship themes, it's all tied to travel. Traveling, higher education, publishing, spirituality, foreign people, foreign places, maybe legal matters. It could be something like that, but maybe spending money on travel with a partner. And I would say to lean into this Venus transit, to be open to it, say yes to a random invitation, right? Teach what you know, teach what you love. Maybe there's going to be a opportunity for you to be traveling with a partner, or there's like a long distance relationship theme that's kind of coming up. And I also feel like this is about spending money on luxury relating to travel or education. It is possible that, you know, you're going to be spending your rent money on a retreat, so be smart. It's also connecting to, you know, maybe going on a date and connecting with somebody and things just really expand very quickly. It could also mean that there can be ideological fights that can actually kill chemistry. So you want to watch out for that. You want to keep an open mind when it comes to discussing your beliefs about the world in regards to money or relationships with other people. And I do think that it is prime time for you guys to maybe be at an airport or be preparing to kind of spend money on going somewhere or doing something. Even if you're not doing it in the next month, some of you guys might be planning stuff that you're going to be doing going into next year. Okay. I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope it's a good one for you. Let me know what happens. All right, Taurus and Taurus risings, your chart ruler is on the move. Venus, which rules you, so wherever Venus is where you are, is entering into Sagittarius in your 8th house. Now, Venus also is tied to your 6th house of scheduling, health, as well as habits. So Taurus, you know, with Venus transiting your 8th house, it's sexy, right? It's sexy. It's where love and money are going to be connected to intimacy. It's also going to be about your shared resources, your investments. It can be about sexual healing, transformation in relationships, going deep, practicing intimacy and healthier habits when it comes to your relationships and your daily routine. And I would say, you know, to lean into this is really about you guys maybe having conversations about money that you've been dancing around. Maybe it's going to be exploring deeper levels of intimacy that's not just physical, it's emotional. This is also a really strong time to receive loans or refinance things or deal with inheritances. You might find that other people are more generous with you. But what you want to watch for is that there can be jealousy spirals that can happen during this transit, power struggles over money or control of money or assets. And obviously using sex to avoid feelings. That's something that you want to kind of watch out for as Venus is going through this sign. It will inconjunct or quincunx Jupiter at some point. So it is going to be a lot of maybe money spent on vehicles or on moving or on traveling or, you know, conversations revolving around home and family, discussing expenses and something that ties to siblings or vehicles. So you've been dealing with a retrograde here. So there's been already something that's been kind of going on there. And I would really lean into it because I think for you guys, the 8th house represents where you can be a little bit more adventurous or spontaneous or a little bit more open. And it can actually be really good and create a little bit more adventure in your life. So be willing to take some risks. For my Geminis and Gemini risings, you guys are going to experience Venus transiting the sign of Sagittarius, moving through your natal 7th house. Obviously, this is a great transit. Venus loves going through the 7th house of relationships. And Venus is associated traditionally with your 5th house of romance, true love, children, and creativity, and the 12th house of what is subconscious, hidden, self-undoing, or hidden enemies in some cases. So with Venus going through your 7th house, because of her association with Libra and the 7th house, it's pretty good. So whether you're single and you're looking to mingle, you could meet someone. Obviously, there's been a retrograde here, so if you felt like somebody got kicked to the curb, somebody new can come in. If there's been miscommunication and not getting along well with people, now it means that it can actually bring in more passion and better balance and diplomacy. And I think it's overall really positive for relationships with creative collaborators, younger people, children, And I think that what you're going to want to watch for is just contracts and business partnerships as well. Now, to lean into this transit, this is about maybe turning a situationship into something that's official. Maybe you're traveling with your partner. Maybe there is opportunities for you to create and collaborate together. Maybe there is discussion revolving around, relationship with children. I love the 5th house ruler in the 7th house. That's about true love. And like now somebody new can come in if there's been some turbulence. May also be really reflecting some of the energy with the Mercury retrograde here, where you've been contemplating whether or not somebody really values you or prioritizes you, or if somebody's going to show up to support you. Counselor, therapist, business partner, right? Spouse, these kinds of people. All reflecting back, Jupiter in the 2nd is going to be a lot of, discussing, I think, business and financial deals and, how much money a partner's making, what it's bringing in for the two of you, how you guys are discussing how that money is going to be kind of filtered into, potential home expenses. It could also mean that you feel wanted. You want to feel chosen. You want to feel that somebody is really prioritizing you, and you want to see them show up and show it in not just action, but also in emotions. So I hope you guys like that transit. I would say just watch out for maybe overly idealizing emotionally unavailable people, or, long distance heartbreak that can happen. I have to put that out there because the Mercury retrograde started in this sign, and you will see Venus come into a square with Saturn and Neptune. So it's going to be about your relationship with clients or business partners, or where partners are showing up to kind of encourage you and be your cheerleader to make changes in your career. Good luck, Gemini. I hope it's a good one for you guys. All right, Cancer and Cancer rising, you guys are going to experience Venus going through the sign of Sagittarius, moving through your natal 6th house. Well, for you guys, this basically means that it is bringing love into the 6th house. So finding people at the gym, loving your pets, maybe finding a new job. And Venus is tied to your home and your family. It's also going to be tied to your 11th house of friends and goals. So I'll be honest, Venus going through the 6th house, love and relationships can feel like a chore. Okay, that can happen. But really this is about saying, okay, when it comes to my daily work, when it comes to my health routines, maybe service, maybe even my relationships with people at the office or my pets, you have to learn that love is a verb. It is about not just loving, it's about doing. And so it's about showing care. This can also be about self-care or bettering your work situation or your health situation. Maybe this helps you guys fall in love with your job again. Maybe you flirt with somebody at the gym. Maybe this is about bringing a little bit more beauty into your routine, right? Enjoying the fact that, you can dance around your house or your apartment and you can clean, listen to great music. Maybe you're putting on a full face of makeup if you're going to the gym, or if you're going to the grocery store in hopes that you're going to meet with someone. I would watch for work crushes. It can complicate some things. Watch out for over giving because you have to feel worthy of something. And this is going to be obviously referencing the Jupiter transit in your 1st house. And I think a lot of my Cancer risings have told me that they've either maintained their weight and they're gaining muscle, so they're spending more money on costly gym memberships or like dietitians or supplements. And then I've had other Cancer risings that are like, I've gained weight and now I'm having to spend money on going to the doctor, or I'm having to invest in, new fitness or workout clothes. If you're having to improve your schedule or your routine in some way, do it in a way that's fashionable, make it feel good, because you have to really kind of jazz yourself up to, cook, clean, go to work, or potentially take care of your health. And I think it's going to help bring back some optimism if you can just add a little bit more beauty to some of these things that don't feel so glamorous. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Let me know what happens with this transit. All right, we've got Leo and Leo rising. You guys are going to experience Venus going through Sag in your natal 5th house. Fellow sister fire sign, I think you're going to dig it. You'll get some trines from obviously Venus at some point throughout the way. Venus is tied to your 3rd house of siblings, cars, communication, and learning. It's also tied to your 10th house of career and your professional standings. So as you have Venus going into your 5th house of romance, it's possible for you to really create, explore, date, meet people, love with, younger people or children, love of hobbies, short getaways, and also things that might tie into your professional reputation and your career. Possibly you'll find that it's really highlighting for you that there's a bunch of really great date nights, or you're just having fun and you're feeling like really connected to someone. Maybe this is about creating art, and that art can be something that you're showing on media, or you're kind of tying in your creative process into what you're doing at work. This is also about being the main character. You know that better than anybody else. And I got to tell you, with Venus, the Sun, and Mars in your 5th house, you guys need to be out there having fun. You need to be creating, you need to be playing, and you need to be not taking life So seriously, I think that's really what the focus is. You'll get an opportunity to focus on that with this up and coming new moon in Sagittarius later next month. But I do think that with the ties to the third house, you got to communicate and you got to tell people, you know, what you love or who you appreciate. That's part of your responsibility is, you know, making sure that you're keeping people around or communicating in a way that feels good in the heart space. I do think for some of you guys, this could manifest as a little bit of romantic drama. Some Leo risings will have a pregnancy scare. I know some of you guys have already told me that you found out you're pregnant. That was the Mercury retrograde. And this could also mean that you're just spending money on pleasure. And there is a sense of you just wanting to do things for the sake of doing things because you want to indulge and kind of be in the moment. So I hope you guys enjoy that. For my Virgo and Virgo risings, you guys are going to experience Venus transiting through Sagittarius in your natal 4th house. Mutable sign, obviously, so got to obviously kind of highlight the fact that all these planets are squaring the north and south node where you're changing and there's changes in relationships and it's all starting on the home front. So Venus going into the 4th can mean that a woman is coming to stay and visit with you. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be a partner. Venus is tied to your money and your security and self-esteem and your style, and also the 9th house of education and travel. So are you bringing somebody home to meet the family? Are you going to meet somebody else's family? Are you traveling for a family kind of celebration, or is there a graduation? Is there a wedding? Is there something going on with this transit? Obviously, the 4th house is about your home and your family and your inner peace. So as Venus goes through this house, you know, it can be great for decorating boldly, like putting things from places that you've traveled around the world. Maybe it's about anticipating moving somewhere that feels more free. It could also mean that you're healing family money stories. That can be a huge tie to that as well. Watch for expenses relating to the home, although I don't think it's bad. You know, the Mercury retrograde maybe had you thinking whether or not you're staying or you're going. And this is also going to be about maybe escaping into home changes or renovations instead of dealing with emotions. That can happen. And you will see as each planet squares the north and the south node, you have to apply something. So you're going to have to add a little bit more touch of beauty and I think elegance or kind of bold style to your space. And family relationships are going to get highlighted throughout this transit. And it's going to be where maybe family shows up and you realize like how valuable some of those relationships can potentially be. But let me know how you guys do with decorating your spaces or finding new places. That can definitely be a theme. For my Libras and Libra risings, you guys are going to experience Venus transiting through the sign of Sagittarius in your natal 3rd house. Libra, you're ruled by Venus, so wherever Venus is where you are. I'm like laughing, but I'm crying internally as I'm like looking at the transits because I don't oftentimes do these until the week, you know, or like the week leading up to the transits. And then I laugh because I'm like, this is just so bang on for the general, but also for me. So here we go. Venus, you're going to experience Venus going into the 3rd house. And what this basically means is you're on the move. So short distance trips, traveling, dealing with siblings, stuff relating to cars, major transformation, because Venus also ties to the 8th house of resources and conversations revolving around travel and education, gadgets, cars. As Venus goes through this house, what you're going to find is that it's a good time if you want to redo a website, if you want to be working on media, maybe if you want to do some writing, if you want to go on a short distance trip. Relationships with siblings can improve. You can also find that there is a little bit more of like a flirty communication style. Great if you want to teach workshops or if you just want to be speaking your desires out loud. What's difficult about this is that you are going to see that there can be some gossip that can come up, and maybe there's a tendency for you to say yes to everything and your energy feels like a little scattered. You will also see throughout the transit eventually, Venus is going to be coming into a square with the north and south node. So it might mean that you have to really speak up for what you love and what you value, or you may have to make an investment in something you value. And then the squares to Saturn and Neptune is as you're getting later into December, you start to feel like traveling and also maintaining your mental health or your work schedule, your workflow, something's hitting a wall and you can't do everything. So don't wait until you get to the end of December to make some of those decisions for travel plans, because you're going to be in a bit of a time crunch, and be communicating early throughout this transit about what you feel like you can actually achieve. Jupiter is affecting a lot of this. So this means that a lot of it's connecting to work-related matters and whether or not you can schedule in travel or family relationship time as a result of your expectations that you have at work. Okay? Good luck, Libra. Hang in there. If that resonates, just know it resonates with me too. All right, we've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You guys are going to experience finally Venus going into Sagittarius in your second house. Scorpio, December is such a powerful powerhouse of transits to help you get your money right. That's really what this is about. Venus is obviously going through the house of self-esteem, resources, security, your spending power. And Venus likes going through the second house because that's where it feels kind of at home. Now, Venus rules the house of self-undoing, what's hidden or secret, and it's also connected to relationships and partnerships. So as Venus goes through the second house, there can be some unexpected blessings that can come your way financially. And that could mean literally the universe is blessing you, or you have partners that are more generous, or they're doing things financially that you don't even really know about. And I think that this is really about your personal income and your self-worth and your possessions and also sensuality. So this is a good time, Scorpio, to know your worth because you can charge more, you can make more, you can raise your rates. This is also a time that you might receive compliments. I would say wear the bold lipstick, buy the things if that's what you want. This is the once a year transit where you can really treat yourself and you can indulge, and you will likely also be gifted nice things. And watch for feeling like you have to spend money to prove you're enough. This is about not focusing on possessive tendencies in love or relationships. This is also about not having kind of like conditional relationships as well. I think that Venus being in the same sign as Mars is great for you. I think Venus sextiling Pluto is great for you. A lot of the money is going to be put towards either education, travel, or shifts in your philosophy revolving around what's important. And it's going to put a lot of things in perspective. And then as you start to see Venus coming into a square with Saturn and Neptune, it is going to bring up, am I buying things just to feel better? Am I overindulging because I'm sad? Am I just trying to overcompensate because I'm not happy? And I would say move away from things. Sagittarius in the second house teaches you it's not about things, it's about experiences. And so if you can spend money on an experience, that's going to be so much more valuable than actually having the thing, right? So enjoy your season of the wealth and the abundance and the self-esteem, I think, returning. Sag. Finally, a good transit for you guys. We see Venus is going through Sagittarius. It's going to be moving through your first house of self and appearance, body, identity. So this is where Venus for 3 weeks is going to be blessing you. Take the photos, treat yourself, take care of yourself. Realize that part of looking good is feeling good, and that requires a little bit of work. And that's because Venus is tied to your sixth house of health and habits and beauty routines. So there can be a sense of refining that, seeing your stylist, seeing your hair therapist, and the people who can also help you really focus on feeling good. And Venus is also tied to your 11th house of goals, friends, and allies. So there is this sense of your body, your identity, and your personal magnetism really having a glow up. Yes, it's glow up season. It's your season. You're going to have a new moon, in this next month also. But I think it's a time for you to be seen, and it's about letting people fall in love with the real you. And obviously you've gone through like the, roller coaster of emotions with the Mercury retrograde. But now you're getting ready to come back stronger, especially once Mercury gets into Sag here in like the next week or two. And I feel like with Venus on your ascendant, you're beautiful. The sun on your ascendant, people see you. Mars on your ascendant, it's great for passion. But this isn't the first house itself. And it's ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the 8th house, which means you're going through like this pressure cooker of big emotional shifts and changes. But it's kind of teaching you to go, you know what? I have to take care of myself and really invest in myself to be able to go through some of the pressure that's happening where I'm having to show up and make some big changes about kind of clearing some ancestral patterns or dealing with family or approaching a move or making a big decision about, my private life. Watch for, because Venus can be really seductive, but it can also be with Mars and Venus there, it can be arrogant. Like some people can perceive it as you being arrogant or you being, overly confident. It can also mean that you're a little restless, where you're so self-focused that you don't realize it, but you can be kind of pushing people away. And that can also be because Mercury's still hanging out in your 12th house, right? That's your relationship lord. Focus on you, but also focus on how you're taking care of yourself as you're going through these really significant kind of emotional and also joint financial changes. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you guys are going to experience Venus going through Sagittarius in your natal 12th house. And all these planets are going through the 12th house. It feels like everything's getting kind of filtered out, Capricorn. So just hang in there. Your season's on the way. But there is a whole review that's going on, and you're dealing with stuff in your subconscious when these massive planets come through Sagittarius in that 12th house. Venus is connected to your career and your status and your relationships with your career. It's also connected to creativity, self-expression, self-employment risks, children. So with Venus going through the 12th house, this is about solitude. This is about spirituality. There can be some secrets that can come up in regards to romantic flings or work or some kind of behind the scenes work that you're doing. Really, it's about surrender. And I think that some of you guys might find there's a secret admirer. Maybe there is like a behind the scenes kind of like romantic thing going on at work or with somebody that you want to keep hidden. There can also be income that's coming from, unusual places or working in foreign lands or dealing with people in other countries. So much of the 12th house, I think, teaches us surrender. So you have to also be aware of where there could be some self-sabotage, where there is some escapist tendencies that are coming up, where you're overworking, oversleeping, and maybe giving your power away. Now, if you're a creative and you're working on stuff, kind of behind the scenes, this can be beneficial. And all of this is ruled by Jupiter, and it's bringing up the Jupiter retrograde in your 7th. So it does mean that it's closing karmic chapters in relationships, with romantic relationships, but also maybe with a therapist or maybe even with family. And there is some secrets or things or some intuitive hits that are coming up about what direction you're about to go in your romantic relationship life. Obviously, at some point, Venus is going to square Saturn. So that's going to be a time where you're going to have to make some decisions about whether or not you're going to make some big work changes or some big relationship changes and ultimately what's going to make you happy. But I would say watch for, I think, maybe hiding away from relationships as well. Like if you're a single Capricorn rising and you're not wanting to kind of be forthcoming with people about how you're feeling in a relationship, it's time to kind of step up and have those conversations. This can also be healing centers or doing some foreign travel or some, like maybe relationships that you have with somebody that can be in a foreign land. Good luck, Capricorn. All right, Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you guys are going to experience Venus transiting through the sign of Sagittarius, moving through your natal 11th house, where it's all about socializing, hosting, seeing friends, partying. Venus is tied to traveling, education, and your beliefs. So you might be traveling to visit friends. You might have people coming into town throughout the next month. Lots of gatherings and things that you're looking forward to. And Venus is also tied to your 4th house of home and family. So I think some of you guys are going to be like, I'm hosting a friend group Christmas, or, we're having everybody who's, away from family getting together and doing something, or like just some awesome parties. So what you want to find is that you're spending time with your friends in your communities, that you're really maybe trying to play matchmaker. Maybe you have a friend that's trying to set you up with someone. It can also be about connecting with people online. Now, I would focus on romance that could come from your friend group. I would also say this is about collaborating. It's possible that there could be income that can come from social media collaborations. And I think some of you guys are going to be seeing that there's going to be some family gatherings that are going to be taking place as well. Watch for falling for the idea of someone and then getting friend zoned. I would also say don't overly idealize friends or groups. And I'm saying this because you will see Venus coming into a square with Saturn. This is also about accepting other people wanting to join in or wanting to support you or making you feel valued. And that can be through gifts, that can be through donations, that could be through throwing you a party, celebrating you, appreciating you. You really need that because you can be kind of feeling some money crunch stuff that's coming up with some of those squares to Saturn and Neptune in your 2nd house. This is also following with what's going on with Jupiter in your 6th. So with that connection, you're trying to balance work and play, and you're also trying to go and socialize with people in a way that feels like you're still maintaining some of your health habits, not overeating, not over drinking, and still being merry, while trying to avoid some of the things that could be kind of detrimental to some of the health goals that you have kind of put forth. Good luck. And for my Pisces and Pisces risings, you guys are going to experience Venus transiting Sagittarius in your natal 10th house. Obviously, this is where love is about being out in the world, relationships with people professionally, your career, and anything that's connecting to your reputation, your public life, or even achievement. So you want to dress for success when you go to work, right? You want to be putting your best foot forward because you're going to be dealing with people who are going to be looking at how you appear. Now, Venus is tied to your 8th house of joint finances and income. So it can be a real positive money-making opportunity where people are investing in you or interested in what you have. And there could be bonuses or negotiations or raises. It's also tied to the 3rd house of communication and travel. So you're going to have to really be putting yourself out there and kind of selling yourself or trying to kind of communicate in a more bold, diplomatic way. I think some of you guys are going to be seen for not just your beauty, but your wisdom. And I also think that there could be brand deals, there could be public love declarations, proposals. It might be about falling in love or finding a job that you do love and feeling like you can communicate in a way that is a lot more friendly or diplomatic at work. Obviously, Jupiter is the dispositor. It's also your ruler, and you're going to see some of the inconjuncts or the quincunxes. So it's going to be about you going, all right, you know, being thankful for how busy work is and what success you do have, but also reflecting on, well, is this making me happy? Thankfully, Jupiter is trining Saturn. So if you are really busy, you know, yes, you're grateful that you're employed, but it's also about you having better boundaries and knowing that you need to protect your happiness and you need to get work done so you can enjoy the time that you have free. You will also start to see Venus coming into a square with Saturn and Neptune, and like Mars already did that, the sun's going to do that, the new moon's going to do that, or the full moon's going to do that, excuse me. And my interpretation is that, yeah, you feel a lot of pressure, but Saturn and Neptune are about to go direct. So, you know, maybe you show up and you're able to put your best, you know, face out there and really kind of manage the relationships and everything at work. But internally, Saturn and Neptune is just kind of saying like, man, this is just a lot of pressure. You know, I don't know how much longer I can kind of take this. And I would say try to move through things gracefully. Like don't apply too much pressure on yourself. Like go through December and take your time. And really focus on, you know, performing love instead of feeling it. And watch for just being a workaholic. I think that can happen. And it might be that you love your job, but you might feel like it's really hard to love the people that you're kind of working with. And you can also be seen as somebody who is outgrowing that Saturn, Neptune in the first house where you're passive, or maybe, you know, you're kind of like evasive, or maybe you're a little cold with people, or you're a little detached. Now you're going to be a little bit warmer, and it can be really good for your career and some of your professional relationships. So focus on that. All right, guys. Well, that is the week at a glance. Obviously, I hope it's a good one for you. I hope you guys feel the love. And I think that, you know, Venus in Sag is really just about, it's about taking chances and really daring ourselves to choose the life and the love and the version of ourselves that feels free. So this week, your homework is to get outside of your comfort zone, get outside of your shell, say yes to really what makes your soul say thank you, and say no gently but firmly to everything else. Now, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click that bell button below. I'm here Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And if you guys want to join me for any of those other videos, I hope you do. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will catch you guys back here on Tuesday. So until next time, enjoy the weekend. I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.